She was a famous pop star. With the passage of time, she started to lose popularity. When she lost hope to be famous again, she turned to become witch doctor. She does anything to get what she wants, even the most heinous crimes. This is the story of the woman who had the scariest smile ever, Mona Fandey. The story began on the 2nd of July, 1993, with a missing politician, Mazlan Idris, from the ruling United Malays National Organization, UMNO party, just before he disappeared. He had withdrawn RM 300,000, which is $120,000 at the time, from a bank in Kuala Lumpur. At first, his disappearance didn't make many waves, as there were no pressing government matters at hand and people assumed he was just on vacation. Even the amount of money withdrawn wasn't surprising. Honestly, with the high level of corruption present in the government at that time, why would it be? But after 2 weeks of being unable to communicate with Idris, his party grew concerned and lodged a police report. On the 19th of July, the police began investigating. Their initial findings indicated that Idris had gone to visit Mona Fandey, an infamous witch doctor in Raub, Pahang, so they decided to drop by her residence. At the same time they were investigating the disappearance, the police happened to be holding Mona Fandey's assistant Juraimi Hassan for questioning about an unrelated drug offense. After an interrogation, they were able to convince him to confess and assist them with the disappearance case. Hassan first led the police to one of Mona Fandey's houses in Uludong, Raub. There, the police found a videotape, a photograph album, newspaper clippings, and certificates of shares owned by Idris. This was enough evidence for the police to detain Mona Fandey and her husband Mohammed Afandi for further investigation. But that was only the beginning of the nightmare. July 21st, 1993. That was the day Mazlan Idris's body was uncovered, in another house owned by Mona Fandey. His body had been separated and stuffed in a 6-foot-deep hole before the hole was filled with cement. Mona Fandey had also committed other gruesome acts with his body, one so horrifying that we can't describe them here. The crime had occurred between 10 p.m. and midnight 3 days earlier. According to Juraimi Hassan in his confession, he was the one who attacked and got rid of Mazlan Idris, as well as burying the remains, all under the orders of Mona Fandey in Mona Fandey's house. Police also discovered numerous occult artifacts. This includes an altar and statues of deities, as well as knives and an axe at the scene. Furthermore, a .38 Smith & Wesson revolver, which belonged to Mazlan, was found buried in the area. Following this lead, Mona Fandey's other properties were also raided. It turns out the politician Mazlan Idris wasn't the only victim, as the police also found body parts belonging to other individuals. These victims were never identified, unfortunately, but there may have been as many as 5 other victims. So who was Mona Fandey? Clearly, she was a very dangerous woman, willing to get rid of even prominent politicians for her black magic practices. And yet there was more to her than just being an occultist. When the media dug into her past, what they found was a rather unusual and sordid history. Mona Fandey was the stage name of former pop singer Nur Mazna Binti Ismail. Mazna started singing and dancing at a very young age. She took up water ballet and eventually released her debut album titled Diana in 1987. Together with her husband Mohammed Noor Afandi Abdul Rahman, Mazna spent a lot of time and effort to promote her career. They even booked several TV appearances and collaborated with other singers. But despite her talent, she failed to make it big. Facing this failure, Mazna and Afandi turned to practicing witchcraft. She attracted many high-profile clients, including politicians from UMNO and other parties. Mona Fandey was notorious for her prowess in black magic and could supposedly curse or bless others with powerful charms. Whether or not she had any powers is up for debate, of course, but her reputation was certainly undeniable. It's evident that Mona Fandey was paid handsomely by her clients, judging by her lavish lifestyle. Despite owning multiple bungalows, she preferred to stay in hotels. She also had a collection of luxury cars, including a Jaguar, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and a station wagon. Why did Mazlan Idris approach her then? Via the testimonies of Mona and those associated with her, the story began to unfold. In 1993, Mona and Afandi were approached by Mazlan Idris for the first time. He was an ambitious man, eyeing the position of chief minister for the state of Pahang. But a man like that can make a lot of enemies and find himself facing many obstacles. Because of this, Idris decided to enlist the help of the supernatural. The couple agreed by promising to give Mazlan a talisman comprising a cane and a songkok, a kind of traditional Malay hat, supposedly owned by the late first president of Indonesia, Sukarno. They offered to sell these to him for RM 2.5 million, 1 million USD at the time. Idris fell for the temptation in his greed for power. He was also convinced by her lies that she had helped other UMNO members as well, and in exchange, agreed to pay RM 500,000, equal to 200,000 USD, and give them 10 land titles as a guarantee for the remainder of the fee. But of course, Mona Fandey had no intention of honoring her end of the deal. Mona and her husband soon hatched a plan to eliminate him as revenge over a land deal that had gone sour. The specifics are unknown, but it's possible that he took back one of the land titles he offered Mona Fandey. Regardless, the couple saw a golden opportunity, a chance to take vengeance as well as a huge payday from Idris's own pockets. They had promised Maslin Idris that they could make him invincible. So, on a later date, they invited him over to their home for a cleansing ritual. Idris was then instructed to lie face up on the floor and close his eyes, and imagine money raining from heaven. As he did so, Hassan swung his axe down and decapitated Idris. It's said that after she got rid of Idris, Mona Fandey conducted another black magic ritual involving the sacrifice of a black goat, eerie, right? With Idris out of the picture, the witch doctor and her accomplices could rest easy, at least for a while. Mona Fandey reportedly went on a shopping spree in Pahang right after withdrawing the equivalent of US $116,000 from a local bank. It's also reported that she bought a Mercedes-Benz and had a facelift in Kuala Lumpur. 2 days after the discovery of Idris's body, Mona, Afandi, and Hassan were arrested. A highly publicized trial began soon afterward, whipping the media and public into a frenzy. It's clear that Mona Fandey was unrepentant for her numerous crimes. Emboldened by all the eyes on her, she put on a performance worthy of her pop star days. Mona Fandey constantly wore expensive and gaudy clothes, thick lipstick, and a creepy grin that never faded while in court. Whenever photographers were taking pictures, she would pose for them as well. When she was interviewed, Mona Fandey peered across the crowd, then grinned at the reporters and remarked, "Looks like I have many fans." Her reputation as a witchcraft practitioner was so great that during the trial, some of those who attended court proceedings kept amulets and recited verses to themselves for protection. The trio were tried in Temerloh, Pahang High Court by a 7-jury person. The case lasted 65 days and heard evidence from 76 witnesses. The prosecution told the court that money was the motive for the crime and pointed to the shopping spree, the facelift, and the Mercedes. Hassan testified against Mona and Afandi and revealed the gruesome details of the murder. In the end, the High Court found all 3 of them guilty and sentenced them to death by hanging. Mona and the others filed appeals to the federal court, but in 1999, the court dismissed their appeals and upheld the death sentence. Finally, the 3 convicts sought to obtain a pardon from the Pardons Board of Malaysia, their last chance of redemption. However, the board refused to give clemency. In an amusing twist, Mona Fandey gained more fame from this trial than when she was a pop star. There was wide local and even international media coverage and plenty of public interest. Anti-death penalty movements, including Amnesty International, voiced their opposition to the execution of the trio. So in a way, she got what she wanted earlier in life, just not the way she wanted it, unfortunately. Strangely enough, while in prison, Mona Fandey was on her best behavior and became a model inmate. According to Kajang prison officer Sergeant Aziza, who was stationed to guard Mona Fandey, Mona was often seen performing the 5 compulsory prayers in Islam each day, as well as reciting the Quran. Mona was friendly with Aziza, often sharing cooking tips with her. Even Aziza's husband and children vouched for Mona Fandey's character. They believed that deep down she was not a cruel person, and one of them said, "She can't even squash an ant, even when she cleans the fish. During cooking, she cries, let alone dismembering a human being." Mona Fandey's fellow inmates also reported that the prison became a hotbed of supernatural activity during her stay. Many of them claimed to have witnessed unexplainable supernatural events and strange figures. There were claims that Mona often invoked her supernatural powers to briefly leave the prison for a drink, but returned before dawn. All these claims were of course denied by the prison department's top brass, who assured the public that there was no escaping prison when one is meant to be locked away. The 3 convicts were given a last meal of KFC on the night before their execution. Mona, Afandi, and Hassan were hanged on the 2nd of November 2001 at Pudu Prison. A prison official said the trio expressed no remorse at the pre-dawn execution. It was also reported that during her execution she uttered the words, "Aku takkan mati," meaning, "I will never die," and was still calm and smiling. So was Mona Fandey genuinely evil? Was she possessed? Did she truly repent in prison? Nobody knows for sure. Like any celebrity in court, Mona Fandey attracted a lot of attention. The government of the day saw this as a bad thing, believing it was bringing shame to the judicial system and Malaysia as a whole. As a result, the Mona Fandey case had unintended long-term consequences for Malaysia's legal system. In the wake of her sentencing, then Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, decided to abolish the jury system. He cited Mona Fandey's sensationalist trial as the primary reason for doing so. One major issue with jury trials is that members of the jury can be exposed to media coverage, especially if it's a high-profile case. Because of that, the idea of a fair trial becomes compromised as jury members may enter the courtroom with a biased view of the case. These were the same reasons given by the Malaysian government to abolish the jury system. They argued that jurors were not legally trained and easily swayed by emotions and public opinions. Records of the parliamentary debate on this issue back in 1994 can be read. The Minister of Justice at the time quoted several factors that led to the decision to abolish the jury system. The jurors were easily convinced by the arguments of the defense counsel. Jurors were reluctant to attend and do jury duty, and many jurors did not feel like being responsible for a person's death sentence. Till today, 29 years later, Malaysia has not reinstated the jury system. Whether that's a good or bad thing is an argument for another day, but there's no doubt that Mona Fandey's case was the main factor behind this change in the system. Mona Fandey's case is one that sent ripples across Malaysian society. The sheer evil behind her crime is mind-boggling. Until today, nobody knows for sure why she did it. There have been numerous high-profile crimes in Malaysia, but none have quite captivated society's attention like hers did. What do you think of Mona Fandey's crimes? Do you have any comments or opinions? Feel free to let us know in the comments below. And remember, for more deep dives into crime, like and subscribe.